command man to dress the garden. Very fundamental reason. Reason number one. Before that creature called Adam was introduced to that topography called Eden, I explained to you in the visions of Ezekiel. He said to us that Ezekiel chapter 28 verse 13, he said how that you have fallen from Eden, O ye Lucifer. Talking about that morning star that was hooked up in the galaxies of God. So before Adam was introduced into Eden, there was a creature that ministered unto Elohim from Eden. His name was called Lucifer. And on the strength of the fall of that prince, he uttered the balances of creation. I said to you, it's a law in the spirit. Anytime a prince falls from the archives of glory, he utters the balances of creation. I took you to Psalm 82, where I showed you how the Bible spoke about the fall of Adam. He said, I have said unto ye, ye are gods, but you knew not ye are. You have fallen like sons of men. And he said, the foundations of the earth has gone out of course. The word foundation there is the same word for manual. So it means before Adam came, the manual that was to regulate creation was intact. But because Adam being a prince fell, the manual was withdrawn. On the account of that, I said to you, because the manual was withdrawn, man assumed another mode and structure in the spirit. Man assumed another calibration in the spirit. Why? Because all the creatures that were created to be agents that will bring help to man turned against man. For instance, I said to you, mosquitoes that were created to feed on the nectar that born from growing flowers began to suck blood. It means creation assumed a different mode entirely. Why? Because a prince fell. So anytime a prince fall, one of the evidences that a prince has fallen is that the balances of creation are altered. So Adam legislated unto God from that lexicon before he fall. So what his fall did was that his fall opened layers of wisdom that were darkened in nature. Listen to me. There were some dimensions of wisdom that the fall of Lucifer opened up. Just like the fall of Adam altered the balances of creation, the fall of Lucifer also exposed some layers of knowledge and wisdom that were dynamic, that were demonic. So God never wanted those layers of wisdom to be accessed by creation. This is why in the lexicon of Eden, the Bible reveals that something happened. The Bible said God planted a garden in eastward of Eden, and in the middle of the garden there were two trees. The first tree was the tree of life, and the second tree was the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Where does the knowledge of good and evil find its way into the garden? The knowledge of good and evil was a civilization that was unraveled by the fall of that beast called Lucifer. When Lucifer fell, a layer of wisdom was activated that was not useful for man's existence. So the only way God could curtail that layer of wisdom was to package that layer of wisdom and hide in a tree. So what you saw there, that tree in that scripture I said to you yesterday, was not a tree of apple. It was not a tree of mango. It was a tree of knowledge. This is why I explained to you why among many metaphors God chose to use tree to symbolize knowledge. The reason why God chose to use tree as a metaphor to symbolize that what was hidden there was knowledge, was not fruit, was this. I said to you that if you look at tree, you discover that the same tree you see this year produce different kind of fruit. Next year, the same tree will still produce fruit again. It keep producing. So God wanted you to know metaphorically that that layer of wisdom that the fall of Lucifer activated, it has many layers. Just like a tree keeps producing fruit, that knowledge is not a knowledge that when you tap into its frequency, you can come out of it per day. As soon as you tap into it, just like if you don't want to see fruit year in, year out, uproot the tree. If you plant a tree, you are planting fruit. This season will come, they will grow. Another season will come, fruit will grow. So the best way to explain the dynamics and the dimension of the wisdom that was hidden in that tree is to use the metaphor of a tree. Because it's a tree that as soon as you plant, it keeps growing. So God wanted you to know that the wisdom and the layer of knowledge that was activated by the fall of Lucifer has many layers. So God likened those layers to a tree producing many fruit. And God hid that quantum of knowledge. And God said, of all the trees you can eat, but not of the tree of knowledge. Do you see? Not the tree of apple, but not of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. For the day thou eat of the tree, in dying ye shall surely die. It means you will begin to process the layers. You will eat of this particular fruit this year, another fruit will come, you still eat, it will keep producing fruit. So Lucifer had already activated a dimension of civilization that was at work. So the essence why God commissioned Adam into a priesthood to dress was that Adam also should tend the little presence in Eden to a level that this presence could colonize that dimension of knowledge that was activated. This is why in the book of Revelation chapter 22, there are 5 utensils and facilities that are unveiled by the revelation of John. In those 5 facilities, one among them is the tree of life. You will not see the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Why? Because in the age to come, evil would have been colonized. Evil would have been annexed. So there will be no evil again. So that was the same intention God wanted to achieve on the earth using the priesthood of Adam. So that Adam can dress, meaning Adam can tend the presence of God. Adam can tend it. Adam can tend it like a woman tends fire. Adam can tend it to a certain degree that the presence of God will overwhelm the civilization that was activated by the fall of that place. So his first mandate as a priest was to culture the presence. Whatever God will give to you come in the format of a seed. Whether the prophetic grace, whether the apostolic grace God gives to men, it comes in format of a seed. As a custodian of that dimension, it is your job description to keep tending the seed. Keep tending the seed. This is why Paul said to Timothy, fan into flames the gift of God that was given to you by laying of hands. So it was a measure that was given to Adam to exercise guardianship over. And the only way to make him know is that this presence that I'm giving you guardianship over, you have to tend it. So that Adam could produce a seed and an offspring that will come out of Eden to colonize the entire landscape. Because God knew if Adam give birth to children outside the environment of Eden, they will not bear the mold and the portrait of Eden. God wanted a seed that will come out of Adam to come from Eden. So Adam was commissioned to dress the garden. It means he was commissioned to tend it, to do business with the presence of God to a level that the presence of God grew and colonized the entire landscape. Adam was also commanded from a commanding tower that is above. He should also keep. When you tend the presence of God to a certain level, although it was given to you in a small measure, but by priesthood you keep tending it. You keep tending it. The presence go to a certain level. Now you are a keeper in the spirit. Now stretch forth your wings to cover the presence so that the presence will not be corrupted. So one, he was to tend the presence to grow. The second dimension of his priesthood was to keep it from contamination, so that he can have contact with the system but not contaminated. It was because Adam failed in his second priesthood duty of being a keeper that the serpent found its way in the ecosystem of Eden. I said to you yesterday, people blame Eve for that misnomer, but the blame was not on Eve. Eve was not the keeper of Eden. Adam was the keeper. The serpent was not there the day God commanded Adam to be a keeper over that potter called Eden. Eden is a potter. So when God inaugurated that potter upon the earth, Eve was not there. When God commanded Adam keep the garden, Eve was not there. So where was Adam? Where was the keeper of that potter? That the serpent find its way in the potter, corrupted the potter, and you are blaming Eve? No, sir. Eve was not the keeper. Adam was the keeper. If the keeper was there, where can the serpent enter? Can any creature that is not consistent with the nature of God find its way to the throne of God? No way. Do you know why? Around the throne there are creatures called cherub. They keep the presence, so no infiltration. Adam was that creature, but he neglected his priesthood to keep, and the enemy find its way. This is why Jeremiah cried in Lamentation chapter 4. He said, the kings of the earth and the rulers of the world could not have imagined that the enemies would have entered into the gate of Jerusalem. So it was a misnomer to them. It was an abnormality to them. They never thought in their civilization and in their thought pattern, in the pyramid of their imagination, they never assumed that the enemy could find its way into the city of Jerusalem. Why? Because the gate of Jerusalem were fortified. They knew the technology that sustained the gate of Jerusalem. So they know it was possible. It was not possible for an enemy to find its way. But just like Adam was a keeper, he never knew that the enemy, if you don't keep your gate well, the enemy can fire an arrow into your gate and begins to define civilizations that were not consistent to your assignment. So that was the genesis of man's trouble, because man left the gate. Isaiah said, I have set watchmen upon thy walls, O Jerusalem, who shall not keep their mouth quiet. Day and night they shall call upon the name of the Lord, until God established Jerusalem as a place upon the head. So the problem was that the keeper left the environment. Listen to this. On the strength of man's fall, Yeshua came. There is something deeper about the coming of Jesus more than reconciliation. Jesus never came to reconcile the world back to God alone. Reconciliation was the first process in the chain of his assignment. Jesus came to reconcile man and to do something very striking, which we shall go along that line of teaching. Jesus reconciled man back to God. Not just reconciliation, but the death of Jesus also inaugurate a utensil upon the earth called ecclesia. You notice, I said something to you, in the equation of man's interaction with God, many a times God is seen in that equation as the groom, and a man is seen as the bride. This is why the church is called the bride of Jesus, because Jesus is the groom in that equation and the church is a bride. And you also notice, I said something to you. I said that what you call the ecclesia was not vetted until Jesus died. According to John's gospel, the Bible reveals that when he died, a man, a soldier, a Roman soldier, took a dagger and pierced by his ribs, and water came and the blood came. And then the Bible said, Jesus, they discovered that he had died. Now I want you to understand that what came out by his blood and by water, the church was established. Because the Bible said it's a law in the spirit that a testament cannot be enforced until the testator died. So the first testament was activated by the blood of bulls, which Moses ministered unto the Lord. And the second testament was activated when Jesus died. So aside reconciliation, the second mandate that Jesus came to achieve upon the earth is to inaugurate an infrastructure upon the earth called ecclesia. And ecclesia means the church. Listen to this. The church is not a gathering of people. For the fact that we gather here does not mean we are in church. The scepter shall not depart from Judah, nor the lawgiver in between his feet. Unto thee shall the gathering of thy people be. Unto thee shall the gathering of thy people be. So there is such a gathering that is not unto the Lord. There is a gathering that people gather to achieve their personal ambitions and their personal goals. You can't call that kind of thing church. It can have a church setting. It can have a church ecclesia. It can have a church language, a church diction. Everything that looks around the environment reflects church. But you see, they are not in church. For the fact that the man stand on the podium, is having a microphone, and he's saying he's preaching, does not mean that place is church. What makes the gathering church is that that gathering is unto the Lord. Because anytime God's people gather, there is a meter. Listen to me. In the nomenclature of the angelic, you need to understand that there are different angels with different assignments. One of the job description of angel is to take measurement. There are angels that take measurement. This is why the Bible said, an angel in Ezekiel's vision, he measured a man with 1,000 cubits. So many a times you see an angel with a mitre, with a scale, taking measurement. Anytime you are rising in God and you begin to glory, to rise in God, when they put the meter and the plumb line, they discover that the part of your spiritual progress is advancing. That same day you went and you did another thing. When you did another thing, they will still bring a meter. You might not see it, but they will bring a meter. The day you hold woman skirt, that day you hold woman skirt, they bring meter. You need to understand this thing. They will bring a meter. Don't think they will show you. Because when you rise, they brought a plumb line. So when you fall, they will still bring a plumb line to measure you that, oh boy, this is the level you are now. The bar of your spiritual progress has dropped. They will bring a meter for you. For the fact that you don't see them does not mean they don't operate. They have plumb lines. Anytime you see a plumber in the spirit, he's a measurement taker. These are creatures that take the measurement of the dimensions, the width, the size, and the length of the ecclesia. Do you hear me? So when you rise to a certain degree, when they measure you with a plumb line, they report unto the Lord that this creature has hit a bar of promotion. And the next time you see these creatures around you, they put a meter on your neck. It meaning you have ascended and you have hit a bar of spiritual progress. The administration of God is so solid. You need to understand these dynamics. Do you hear what we're saying? So, what I want you to understand is that for the fact that you gather, anytime we gather, an angel brings a plumb line and he begins to measure your heart content. What brought you to church? And when he measures you, he discovered that the reason why you came to church is not because you are looking for a baby. You came to church because you love the Lord. And on the strength of that measurement with an angelic plumb line, you will be promoted in the spirit. You'll be promoted because you have come to fellowship with God, not to look for your need. And on the strength of that measurement, and on the strength of the promotion that comes as a result of that measurement, after then, God can decide to give you a baby. Not because you came looking for a baby, but you came looking for Yahweh. So when you came looking for Yahweh, when you were measured, Yahweh will say you are qualified to have a baby. Because Yahweh knows that when you are given a baby, you can still come. Because after all, you never came for a baby. So giving you a baby will not stop you from coming. So anytime we gather, you need to understand that there is a plumb line. Your heart content will be measured on that plumb line. And God will know where your heart lies. This is what the Bible said. The ways of a man are pleasing to him, but God weighs the heart. Samuel went to Eliab, and God said to him, man, look at what he bought. I, the Lord, see it with him. So amidst what you call congregation or church, when a meter is brought here, when an angelic plumb line is measured here, you will discover that only 4 people came unto the Lord. Out of 200 people, only 4 people convocated and gathered unto the Lord. 190 something, they gather for their ambition. That is not church. It is called synagogue. So you are in synagogue.